Hello, hello. My name is Melissa Frey. I'm an author, editor, and author business coach. And here on my channel, I talk about how to help authors through the editing, writing, publishing, marketing process of their book. So I give you tips and tricks for that. If that's something you're into, subscribe below. I would love to have you. Now, today we are going to talk about creating a writing plan and how to stick to our schedule, because you can create a plan, but if you don't stick to it, you're not going to actually get those things done, right? So here's the thing. Number one, why do you need a writing plan? That's a really good question. And the answer might not be what you expect. You might not actually need a writing plan. This may not be for you. So if you try something like this, or you try to add this structure in and it just doesn't feel good, that's totally fine. You don't need to do this. But for those of you out there that are looking for some sort of structure to get them on track, this video will be perfect for you. So let's get started. So we're going to develop a writing plan. We're going to keep it simple. We're going to keep it high level. You don't have to worry about all of that, but I'm going to give you 6 steps on how you can do it. Number 1 is to decide when you want to be done with writing your book, right? So this may be, the more you do it, the more realistic it'll be. So you may just have to pick a date out of thin air at this point, but get an idea in your head. If you're not sure, again, you may just have to pick a random date. As you write more books, as you're more familiar with how long maybe you've taken to write your book up until now, and you start to recognize that time, maybe you'll get a little bit more used to it. But pick a date when you would like your book to be finished. Then you're going to estimate your final word count. Now, this will be based on genre expectations, how long you like your books to be. You may not have a clue on what your final word count will be. Take a guess. At this point, these are just educated guesses. Again, the more books you write, the more books you publish and get ready, the more often you write, you will start to understand and get a vibe of how long you write. For example, I currently have written in 2 different genres. And when I'm writing romance, my books tend to be on the shorter side, obviously, because romance books tend to be, now they not all of them are, but they tend to be more in the 70,000 range. That just tends to be what they are. Now, when I write my action adventure books, there are a lot more, I like write in multiple POV. There are a lot more things going on, and those tend to be well over 100K. In my case, 120 or even 130K. And so those take a little bit longer, obviously, because there's a lot more words for one, but there are a lot more POVs. There's a lot more storylines to contend with than just the romance, where typically the way I write them are just the 2 main characters. So something to think about is genre expectations. If you don't have a clue where your story is going, you can just say, well, what's my estimate for my genre? What can I expect? And go with that. Now, I do have a good resource for this, actually, and it's free. So I have a free word count tracker on my website. I've dropped the links down in the description for you, and it actually lists out kind of what the expected word count is for certain genres. So if you're kind of stuck, you don't know where to go, you can always download that tracker. It's a printable, it's with just 1 page. It gives you some motivation, and it actually gives you a whole tracker, and that's why it's called the tracker, where you can like fill in the different, fill in each box when you write a certain number of words. You can do a check mark, or you can color it in however you want to get creative as you would like. But it's basically designed to give you tips and inspiration and motivation and a place to track your writing progress. So again, links in the description. Okay, so number 3, after you've decided when you'd like to write your book and how much you think your estimated word count will be, and it could be based on what you've already written so far and how far along you think you've progressed in the story, then you're going to determine your necessary word count needed. So if you've already written 10,000 and you expect it to be 100,000, we're just making easy math here, you have 90,000 words left to go. So you're going to work backwards from that completion, from today's date and the completion date, and figure out how many words you need to write each month, each week, each day. And you're going to schedule it. We'll get to that in the next step, but you're going to schedule that so that you can get those certain word count. Give yourself a goal for each day or each week or however it works for you. Now, I do recommend that you schedule in off days. I tend to be overzealous when I'm planning. And so I would schedule like 7 days a week. I'm going to write 2,000 words a day. And that just can be unrealistic. Things come up, you get tired, your kid gets sick, that you get sick. There's so many things that can happen. And so I would encourage you, I usually recommend 4 to 5 writing days as a general rule each week. And then if you make all 4 or 5 of those days and you still have time, then all you're going to do is start working ahead, and you actually could possibly get done earlier than you expected. So that's why I always just say plan in those off days just in case something happens, because life can happen. And then you may actually be able to work ahead if life doesn't happen in that case. Okay, so number 4 is to schedule your writing time. And this is basically, when are you going to write? Do you like to write in the morning when everyone is still asleep? Do you like to write before bed when your kids are in bed? Do you like to write in the middle of the day on your lunch break? When do you write the best? When do you like to write? And also, like, if you say you want to do 2,000 words a day, which is probably a lot, depending on your life context, if you work from home or you're a full-time author, then that's more realistic than if you work full-time out of the home, obviously. But decide what's realistic for you. And then you're just going to schedule it in your calendar. Now, if this doesn't feel good to you, if saying, oh, I'm going to write from 1 to 3 does not, if that feels too restrictive, which it does for me, I actually just write on my plan for the day, like, these are my tasks. And on the to-do list, I write, okay, I'm going to write 2,000 words. And it's just when I get to it that day, like when I'm feeling that it's time to write. Now, some people, it doesn't work that way. Sometimes you have to have, some people work really well with regimented schedules. Some people need the flexibility. So figure out what works for you. I'm always going to tell you here on this channel, all the stuff that I talk about, you always got to figure out what works for you, because it ultimately does not matter what I'm up here saying or what anyone else tells you. If it doesn't work for you, it's not going to actually get the results you want. Okay, so once you've done all of that, you decided your completion date, you've estimated your word count, you have worked backwards to determine how many things you need, and that's just simple math. You know, if you have 90,000 words and you've got 9 months, that's 10,000 words a month. Simple math. Of course, I'm keeping it simple math here, so I can do it on the top of my head. And then you're going to schedule your writing time in your calendar. And then number 5 is to commit to your writing plan. Now, this can be a little bit tricky, but this comes down to making promises and keeping promises to yourself. Now, this can be very challenging sometimes for people, because it's like, well, if I have a deadline and someone's waiting on me to give them something, I'm more willing and able to stick to that deadline than if it's to me, where I can say, well, you know, if I have this other stuff going on, I'll do it if I have time, but it's okay if I don't. But when we do that, we undermine those things that we say are important to us, but we're actually treating them like they're a very low priority, because we're not actually doing it and we're not actually committing to doing it. So work on keeping those promises to yourself and getting those things done. Now, if you are having trouble keeping promises to yourself, there are some hacks that you can do. And there are a lot of different ways to do that. But one of the ways that I have found has been so helpful for me in my own writing life is accountability and sprints with other authors. And so the way that this works is basically you hop on a sprint with other authors and you actually get writing done during those sprint times. So you are on a Zoom meeting or wherever, you can do it in person or whatever, but you're doing it together and you set a timer and you're working with, basically, like, you have no excuse now, right? We're all working on our books for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever it is. And we are holding each other accountable to doing that, because what else are you going to do those 15 minutes? Like, this, like, peer pressure, right? You're supposed to be writing, so go write. So one of the best ways to do this has been writing sprints. And I actually run and edit with an editor membership, which is designed to help people edit their books. But also, I've been writing my books during those sprint times. They're editing sprints, technically, where you can edit your book. And I did edit a book during those times. But also I use it for writing, and you can use it for both. But it's a great place to have accountability to actually get your writing done. And then you're in a community, right? So the sprint is done. You can talk about what you wrote about. You can work through issues that you're into. And it's just such a great time. So if you would like to join, that link is also below for the Edit with an Editor membership. So number 6. We finally to the end of the list, because the last one is to celebrate when you're done. And this is so important, because if you don't celebrate the achievements you have, then they're not going to feel very special. And then it's going to be like, oh, Okay, well, on to the next. And your brain actually needs that positive feedback that you actually accomplished something huge. And believe me, if you write a first draft and you finish a book, that is huge, absolutely huge. So find a way to celebrate that is meaningful to you, that is actually helpful. Okay, so that's the 6 steps for developing a writing plan and actually sticking to your schedule, using that accountability either with a membership or with some writing friends, or however you can do it to feel accountable, to feel like you have that intentionality and that motivation to do it. This is actually just a part of what I teach in my author clarity workshop. That's also actually free. So I've linked that below too. It's a pre-recorded workshop, so you can get instant access to it when you sign up. But basically, it walks you through the steps of not only developing a writing plan, but also like a plan for your editing and for your publishing and even marketing and even getting your mindset in the right place. So there's a lot of different things in that workshop, and it's designed to kind of give you an overview of your entire author life, to give you clarity. That's why it's called the Author Clarity Workshop. So if you want to share anything about your writing life or how your writing plan works or how your writing process has developed over time, I'd love to hear in the comments. So share that below and we can chat. Be great. As always, I'm available, email, DMs, usually on Instagram. Again, comment on a video. I would love to chat with you and just talk about kind of what's going on with your writing and your author life. So again, I'm Melissa Frey. I'm an indie author, a book editor, and an author business coach. And I will see you next time. Bye.